What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Rise podcast. Today, we got a great guest episode. Mr. Dan Jackett's on the podcast today. If you're watching on video, you're going to really enjoy this one. Shout out Spotify and YouTube. You can watch the video podcast on both those platforms. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can just listen on audio. But wherever you are, I encourage you to watch the video or come subscribe on video platforms like Spotify and YouTube. But today is going to be great because we have Dan Jackett on the pod. He's a friend of ours. Been a friend of mine for actually a long time, well before he actually started a creative business. And we actually talk about that today, talk about his journey from going from someone who kind of wanted to do it for a long time to working, in jobs where he was an employee and all the comforts of that. And eventually going, enough's enough. I really want to try out this self-employed thing and making that jump to then building Jackett Media, building a six-figure business and over doubling what he used to get paid as an employee at the companies he used to work for, which is an incredible story. And that's the story that really this podcast exists to share. It's why Creative Rise started. We love and we believe that as creatives, you can get paid to do what you love, just like Dan, and just like you're going to hear about Dan's story today. If you focus on the business strategy, right? You focus on the business side. So you're going to hear a lot of that from Dan today about what it looked like to take stuff from his previous sales career as an employee and how does he apply that to his business here? What does it look like to build retainers? What does it look like to nurture those relationships? So many things, and even just the encouragement and inspiring story of what it looks like to go all in on something as, like going full time as a creative. That's a scary jump for a lot of people, going from working as a job, having a job, being employed, consistent paychecks, to making the jump to being self-employed. So that is the Daniel Jackett story. You're going to hear the whole thing today. I think we shot it. This might be one of the most picturesque podcasts we've ever shot as well. So if you're into that, make sure you go watch it on video. Dan and I sat down in Palm Desert. It's a pretty I think we shot it pretty well, which is pretty
You
funny
did,
because it was
you
pretty
did.
last minute, and so we didn't have a ton of gear, so hopefully if you watch it, you'll be pretty impressed, but we were actually balancing, if anybody cares, we were balancing the B cam that's on Dan's face. We were balancing that in the back of your aunt's, what is it, a
Like
Hyundai
a little
something? It's
small
like a
car.
little old small car. I had her trunk popped open with a Home Depot bucket, white bucket in the trunk, and then I had the camera on top of it with some sticks to balance it to get it level, focused on Dan. So you'd probably never know, but it was the definition of like just like shifting and like getting everything set up and like getting the rig all set up. So it was pretty
Yes.
funny. But
Oh my gosh.
anyways, I'm excited for you guys to listen to this episode today. If you guys are new here at Creative Rise, welcome. Make sure you sub to the show. We strictly talk here on Creative Rise and about the Creative Rise podcast about business strategy. So if you are a creative who wants to get paid to do what you love, you want to build a six-figure business, well, you're in the right place. We pride ourselves on helping turning artists into six-figure business owners. That's what we care a lot about here. We got a lot of systems and tools to help you do that. So if you're new here, welcome. We're so glad you're here. I'm Joey. This is Christy. And Christy, you come from the wedding industry.
I do.
I
Yeah.
come from the brand industry. We now do a mix of both together. And we also get to share about everything we learn on Creative Rise here, which is cool.
We've
So,
absolute blast. And the best part is we get to talk to creatives pretty much every day about their
yes.
businesses and all that kind of stuff. And we were just talking to one of our friends, Owen, who's going down with us to the desert actually in a few weeks here. We have our Inner Circle retreat, which is for Creative Rise Mastermind grads only who have hit the six-figure plus mark. We do like a little retreat that they can jump into down in the desert. It's awesome. Tons of strategy. Anyway, we were having like a pre-strategy call for that with one of the guys going, Owen. And he told us today, we were like, hey, what did you end up at as 2024 revenue? And he's like, I ended up at $330,000
Which
in
is
2024,
amazing.
which is
Yeah.
incredible. And I
He
hope
was
that
at the
inspired
Mastermind
you.
last year.
Yes.
He's killing it. His agency's called Native Release, and he's just crushing it right now. We're looking super hard and
Yeah.
crushing it.
Absolutely. And so it's so cool to strategize with creatives who are making great money. Great to strategize with Dan on the podcast today of kind of no matter where you live, no matter where you come from, building a creative business is possible. And it was really cool to talk to Owen about how he did that. And just so cool to catch up with grads that have been just doing incredible things. And we actually have our next mastermind coming. The same program that Owen went through is coming in this March. So March 2nd, our applications open. March 16th, the program starts. It's a 6-week program. Think of it as like 75 hard, but for your business. So like instead of the fitness 75 hard of a concentrated group of people all
Great
focusing
analogy.
on the do's and don'ts of what to do with their health and their fitness, it's 6 weeks of the do's and don'ts of your business, of actually strategizing, utilizing community. We take about 30 to 35 businesses every single round, and we spend 6 weeks together just workshopping your business. It's so cool, and we only run it twice a year. So the next one is coming. So if you want in on that or you want to just learn more, creativrise.com. All the information is there, including price, what you learn, week to week, what you learn, all that good stuff.
And
So
one of my favorite things was talking to Owen this morning actually was he was talking about our sales call formula, and he was like, "Dude, it's so fun getting on a sales call." And because we got a couple coming up this week, we were talking about it, and he's like, "It's so fun getting on there and kind of going through the process of trying to help a stranger become a friend, and then talk about what it looks like to do business." He's like, "I love that. It's like a game to me." And I'm like, "Dude, I totally agree." Yet most creatives struggle with sales calls, including us when we first got started. There's a lot of anxiety around like, what do I say? How do I lead the call? What happens if they take over? When do I talk about price? And we want to give you the answer to that. And speaking of the sales call formula that Owen was referencing that we built, it's actually a brand new course we just built that's a free gift to you if you are on the Mastermind waitlist. So for anyone that's already joined the Mastermind waitlist for round 13 that's coming out in March, you've got an email about it. We already granted you that course for free. And if you are to join the Mastermind waitlist so that you get early access to the application plus some other bonuses, one of those bonuses is this free course where it's going to be the sales call formula, giving you the 7 steps to actually execute a sales call really well as a creative. It's like $47 if you want to buy it, but it's free if you join the waitlist. And that's just something I thought of because Owen referenced it, and it's a great bonus. So to talk about the Mastermind and get you excited and kind of give you a taste of what the Mastermind's going to be like. So
it's literally how Owen closed $330,000 last. She said, "I literally print out the formula and use it on every call," which is super cool.
Which is awesome.
To see it in action.
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
Anyway,
but enough about Owen. This episode's about Dan. So cannot wait for you guys to hear Dan's story and really learn. There's a ton in here about learning from Dan's expertise prior to him starting his own business, and then the countless things that he's learned from the point of starting his own business. And again, one last pitch. If you're not watching it on video, I think you should because it's really beautiful. Anyways, guys, here's Dan Jackett from Jackett Media. Enjoy. Dan Jackett, welcome to the podcast, bro.
Oh my goodness, great to be here.
This is gonna be a fun episode. You've grown your business a lot in how long? 2 years?
Haven't quite crested the 2-year mark according to LinkedIn, because I know I got LinkedIn and that kind of keeps tallying where we're at.
That keeps the tally. Yeah. So we're gonna get into your whole story on what you were doing prior to jumping into this full time, what it looked like to go full time, where you're at now. But rapid fire, kick us off, man. Name, where you're from, and what's your business?
All right. Daniel Jackett, currently live in Steinbach, Manitoba. Moved there because I got married to my wife, Georgia.
Shout out, Georgia.
Counseling therapist. She is phenomenal and doing phenomenal as well. But all that can't be said without mentioning where I grew up. Close to Joey in a town called Fenland Falls, Ontario. Epic family, epic parents. Best friend is my older brother, Caleb, and grew up snowboarding, mountain biking, all the things. I feel like I'm getting a little too far into it. You're going to ask me these questions.
Well, that's what got you into, so very similar to me, actually. That's what got you into filming, right? Was growing up, snowboarding, biking, all that stuff. That's what got you into like your early stages of running around with like whatever action camera you'd have. But okay, give us a picture on what Jackett Media is based out of Steinbach, Manitoba.
Okay, so I feel like I got to mention too, maybe what I thought it would be versus what it is now. I kind of pictured doing big brand videos, maybe, like 3 minutes longer, 16:9, 4K stuff. And that's what I thought it would become. And that's kind of what my focus was initially.
Mm-hmm.
But then realizing too, and this is both to Joey and Christy's influence and just realizing kind of what the market needs are, is like, man, you got to be consistent for brands. And so what is it could be that actually helps grow those companies? And man, it was flipping it to vertical and just being consistent online for those companies versus putting all of our eggs into one basket. Not to say I don't want to do those projects for people, but just
or you haven't done them, because you have done some of that stuff. But yeah, you're talking, it's a lot of social content. So Jackett Media does a lot of helping brands show up on social, crush it online for whatever objective that means for them. Correct?
With consistency.
Love it. Consistency. And so you kind of referenced LinkedIn here. How long have you been actually full-time? When did you make the full-time jump? Or I should say part-time. Like, when did you make the jump to actually start the business? Because I'm pretty sure you just jumped right in, right?
We're in 2025 right now.
Yeah, it's 2025 now.
2024. So I think March of 2023, I should back up a little bit. So my wife and I, we'd moved from, even though I grew up in Ontario, we moved to BC so that she could finish her schooling there. We then moved back to Manitoba, which is where she's from. And at that point, I was working for some friends, doing some carpentry stuff, having a lot of fun doing it, but like also searching for what would be like what I felt would be my career. It's like, man, you know, I thought that I was gonna work for my family business doing construction as a kid, and they're still doing that, and I enjoyed it. It was excavation stuff. Thought that was gonna be more of my trajectory in life. So kind of pictured myself, I'm gonna get to Manitoba, I'm gonna pursue that to the best of my ability. And it was kind of trying to figure out what that trajectory would be as I was working for friends. And as I was like searching, it's like, man, I think I gotta do this video stuff. And that came from your influence as well. Like, dude,
yeah, I've been telling you need to start your own video business for like a decade, I feel like. So you started it March 2023.
Yeah.
So you're coming up on 2 years. And we were talking just briefly about this. We always ask this question, what's a flop you've had? We're gonna get into everything, the business and all that where it's at, but give us a flop that you've had to humanize you a little bit. Everyone's had one.
Okay, I mentioned I was working construction with my family. I was always just bringing my camera to work, just the film projects we were working on. And I always thought that I'd kind of put them all together and create this Jackett construction video. And I thought the safe move was to be backing footage up direct to my desktop on my Apple computer versus my hard drive where all of my other footage was sitting. But I had more trust in that computer. Computer died, sent the computer off to back that up into a hard drive so I could retrieve it again. When I got that encrypted hard drive, I was trying to get into it and had no idea what I was doing. I was typing in passwords, and I guess in doing so, it wiped all that footage I'd taken.
Formatted your whole computer drive, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a mistake. So now I back things up twice, and it's nice and safe. It's also in the cloud once it's a little further along, but that was a mistake.
Yeah, so now you've learned to back it up on a hard drive and on a computer.
Sorry if you guys are on this podcast and like, wow, this kid's teaching us to back things up twice. There's more to this.
Hey, that is a great tip that shockingly some people don't do, including yourself, hence why you had lost all that stuff. So I'm glad you back stuff up now. Okay, Dan, so give us a picture of where, before we get into like the story of what actually became of Jackett Media when you started it, what got you into starting it prior, doing what you were doing, and how is that transferable into what you're doing today? Because there's a lot of value there. Give us a picture of what Jackett Media is, where you're at right now. You're 2 years in. Business is doing 6 figures, which is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What does your income look like in comparison to what it looked like when you weren't self-employed? Because I know that's a big thought. A lot of people go, I don't know if I want to jump into the self-employed life because it's not guaranteed. It's potentially not as predictable. I don't think I'll ever be able to make as much as the golden handcuff salary I've got now. What is quick little 20 seconds on what's that comparison look like for you?
Okay, so working construction as a kid, loved it, and kind of got into a field while we were in BC, working at the John Deere construction dealership and
selling
full-blown sales. And then since then, yes, we have Jackett Media's doubled that, which we were making before, which was good. And I was like, this is great. You talk about the predictability of it. Maybe we'll talk about this later, but I'd actually say like, yeah, it's predictable to go and work somewhere, but man, it's almost more predictable now because it's up to you. Like you have the power to make it predictable and to make it better. Yeah. It's in your hands.
Well, let's talk about that. I 100% agree. And we talk about that a lot on the show. We saw this in COVID. I mean, the biggest tech layoff we've ever seen in tech. I'm saying that because we're in California. There's a lot of tech jobs. A lot of stuff in COVID actually became unpredictable that a lot of people thought was predictable. So if you're listening to the show and you are not yet self-employed, but it's a goal of yours and you're working a job, it is a good little shift in your brain to go, being an employee feels predictable, but it's actually not, because the company could get sued, some bad decision at the top, your manager could leave, and new person comes in and starts cutting a bunch of people to try and make a bunch of changes. Being self-employed is actually kind of like the true predictability if you've got hard work and if you follow the steps that we talk about on the pod all the time and actually building a business. But so doing 6 figures, you over doubled your salary from your old job. You're self-employed now. It's probably brought a lot of choice into your life, right? Which is the entire reason why we love being self-employed.
Indeed. There's a phenomenal coffee maker right beside my desk. That's on me. The commute's not bad at all.
Down the hall a little bit.
Indeed. I don't know what to say about that other than it's like, I'm so thankful that I did it. You encouraged me to do it. My dad encouraged me to do it. Like,
it's great to have a good support.
We are going to talk about this, but so many influences in my life helped with that and have also impacted where I'm at today.
I love it. So let's go all the way back to, I believe it was February 2023 when you came down to, was it February? Dan came down to an inner circle retreat. We were about a week out.
I came here in March.
Okay,
of
so
2023, and in my head I'm like, okay, I think we're gonna make this shift here. April.
Okay, our retreat was in April
because it's warmer. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So for you guys who are new to the show or newer to Creative Rise, one of the things we do around here at Creative Rise is called the Inner Circle Retreat. It is a invite-only retreat that we do once a year, actually down here in the desert of California, in the Palm Springs area for grads of our Creative Rise 6-week Mastermind program. So we take people that have gone through that in the last year, and we invite some people that are our quote-unquote top earners, people in the 6-figure club to come down and be a part of that. And it's 4 days of just chaos and fun and business building and some really cool stuff, which is great. So it was about a week out and I went, man, we need a little bit more help at this retreat. I was like, I wonder if Dan would want to come fly down and we could have you help out,
Dishwasher,
make sure stuff happens.
Run
But
errands.
I was also like, this would be great because I know Dan just started his pursuit of his own business, which I've been wanting you and cheering you on to do for so many years. So it was kind of like really cool timing. Take me back to, you had just started your business. Take me back to that season. What were some of the things that you were feeling, hoping for, but also what were some of the challenges in the first month for you? Because that's something that I think is really relatable, right? Everyone has got different bottlenecks in the beginning of their careers. What were some of those bottlenecks for you?
These aren't going to sound new to you guys, but I think one being a bit of that imposter syndrome where you're like, man, there's so many people around me that are so much better at this. You know, whether they got better gear, you feel they have better skill sets. That might be, but don't forget you bring skill sets too that are maybe different than them or better than them. And so it's like, don't forget that. I was also at the point where I hadn't made it known this is what I'm going to do and this is what I want to do. And so even just jumping that hurdle, it's like, hey,
what do you mean by that? You were kind of like building.
I was like, see, like I didn't want to tell my friends. It was like, I was just like, yeah, I'm going to try and do this. But it's like, to your influence, like, man, time to make this known. And so I think that was I'm not trying to jump ahead. It's like, started like, we're making consistent videos for myself of like proclaiming this is what we're doing.
Which was a huge shift. I remember at the retreat, we told you, the whole group kind of got around Dan and was like, Dan, we're going to force you for the next, like whatever it was, like 20 days or 30 days. You made a wager that you would post one video every day, actually giving value to your audience about what it looks like to benefit from video, right? And did that pay off? Did that work?
Because it shifted big time, because it got people knowing what I do.
Yeah.
Both because I was kind of new to Manitoba, it definitely helped there, but also just shifted your mindset of like, with the boldness to say, this is what I do and this is what I do well, and we're going to go all out. I think is what that did, mostly for me.
Yeah. Brought you some client work. I know you left that retreat actually with some work because there was a couple of people you met down there at the retreat that ended up hooking you up with some gigs. That was cool.
Yes.
But that's a huge shift. That's one of the biggest things. If you're not yet making content for your own business, that's talking on the value points of why hiring someone like you is beneficial. If you're not convinced of why hiring yourself is beneficial to the point that you can actually proclaim it to the world, nobody else is going to be convinced that they should hire you as well. So that was a challenge we kind of threw on Dan early on in the first month, and a bit of you jumping into this full time. And obviously you said it gave you tremendous confidence in actually figuring out what the value was in your own skill set and being able to talk about that, being able to convey it to people, which is sales
that's
and marketing.
They meld together.
Totally.
So well.
And it convinces yourself, or it gives you belief that, hey, I'm actually seeing this work for myself, and I'm realizing the value of myself. I can see how other people would see that. So quickly, let's touch on your background real quick. So prior to getting into this full time, you were working at the John Deere stuff out west, doing sales, literally driving around one of the coolest parts of Canada, selling people big rig equipment. And you learned a lot about sales in that process. My question for you is, what has your journey of taking your previous sales background in another career, and bringing that into your self-employed career as a creative, as somebody who owns a content agency, where are the correlations there? What do you think are the biggest things that you have done well in terms of selling as a creative?
People write books on this stuff, so we're gonna try and touch on it in a podcast. Like, this is such a big aspect, and I actually think the sales aspect of what we do, I don't want to deter anyone from the creative side of it, but it's the biggest part. It's so imperative to your success.
Here's a better question. How do you sell?
It's a process. Selling is a process.
Take me to square one. For somebody who goes, I'm really uncomfortable. I'm a creative. I'm really uncomfortable with putting myself out there, going up to somebody, even maybe in person, because I know you've done that, and talking to somebody about, hey, here's something that I want to do for you, and selling somebody on your services. What are the steps to do that? Because that is an uncomfortable thing as a creative.
Okay, so in sales, I don't want to say that repetition is going to make it easier. I think you're always going to put yourself in situations that are going to be a little scary, whether it's walking into an office for a first time or cold calling someone for the first time, trying to get some momentum. But it is part of the process, and it may never get easy, but you're definitely going to get better at it. So you got to put that work in, realizing that it's a process, and knowing that the first step of building trust, if you ain't building trust, you're not going to get anywhere from
How do you build trust?
Oh boy.
The company does not know you, and you're cold calling, or you're emailing, or you're walking into a business. What's the first step?
Oh boy, how do you build trust?
Or how do you go into it? Maybe that's a better question. Like, how do you approach an intro email, or how do you approach cold calling? How do you approach walking into a business?
I don't know if
they don't have any context on who you are. What can you encourage a creative to do? How do you carry yourself going into that? Is your goal to go in and pitch them right away, or is your goal to go in and kind of warm them up?
Okay, this is just a genuine answer, and I don't know if it's the right answer, but I think you're trying to build trust. Well, you are a person dealing with a business that is also run by people, or a person.
Yeah.
And so when you go into that, it's like, man, you're meeting someone for the first time. You're essentially making a new friend. It's that first impression, and it's not really about, hey, you got to buy this heavy piece of equipment, or you got to buy this film package because it's going to help you grow. But you got to be genuinely interested in the best interests of that company.
Yeah, and in what they're doing,
from beginning to end. That never changes. And so I think just realizing that you're talking to people, and you gotta treat people the way you want to be treated. Every aspect through the sale, and through interacting, and through working together. Because I also think that's where you're going to start that 100% honesty from beginning to end. That'll never waver. And if you implement that as well, that's also going to help build that trust. Because for one, it's way easier to do business always 100% truthful and accurate, because you're never having to dodge anything. It's just you're on the straight and narrow.
What does that look like? What is 100% honesty in the sales process for you? What does that look like? Because I feel like a lot of creatives go, well, I feel like sales, you got to manipulate it a little bit. And that makes them really uncomfortable. And that's why they don't do it. Even speaking of you, I remember when you first got your first sales job, this is before you started your own business, you were like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't sell. I'm like an honest person, you know? You're like a very go-lucky, happy, whimsy guy. And you're like, I don't want to go and manipulate people. But what have you learned about sales that is different than that initial thought about sales? Because I think that's what stops a lot of creatives from selling is they think it has to be manipulative, it has to be slimy, it has to be my interests are what I'm thinking about. What's the truth? What's the truth
I
about
feel like
that?
the truth for me, and this maybe isn't what you're looking for, but it's like, I don't have all the answers. And especially in the line of work that we work in, things change so quickly that like, we know our stuff and we're going to probably be more educated on the matter than our clients, but like, this could change next week. So we can't just
You mean like styles, algorithms,
yeah, all
how
that
things
stuff.
work, marketing, yeah.
And so whether if it's heavy equipment, you know, is the best thing for them this machine or that machine, new or used, and this finance rate, that finance rate.
Yeah, you're trying to find the right solution for them.
So videos is like, are we doing the big brand video? Are we doing the consistent social media stuff? Are we gonna run some paid ads? Are we just gonna go organic? Like, I think together you're gonna figure that out. But you also kind of got to be a little loose. You got to stay loose.
I like that. So what I took from that is you're saying together we're going to figure it out. So your sales process, it sounds like, is actually engaging in a process where you get to know somebody, they get to know you, and as a team, you guys work to take their knowledge, their context, and your industry context and industry knowledge, and you're bringing that together to go, let's team up and look at what might be the best solution to this problem.
Because they know their business better than you. They grew that thing. They're working at that, and but you're an expert in your field, and don't be afraid to admit that. It's like, no, you are. You've put in the work. Like you've got the sit camera, you've got the background, you've got the know-how, and you've got some skill sets to help them. And it's like, don't be afraid to be like, you know what? Here's what I think's good. But it is that working together. But knowing they know their stuff, you know your stuff. Together, you're gonna do some great things for them.
Yeah, I love that. So it's not coming in being like, hey, yeah, this is your business. You tell me what you need. That's classic, right? I know I did that a lot in the beginning of my career. Yeah, you let me know what you think, and I'll give you a quote on it. You're going in and saying, hey, here's actually what I've been seeing working, or what I'm doing for other clients. Here's how we could copy and paste this solution into your business, consistent social content or whatever that might be. But by the way, tell me more about your business because I really want to make sure this is the right solution. And then you guys are then going at that as a team, which is cool.
Yes. Man, I'm not trying to overcomplicate this here. I feel like it's like,
well, sales is complicated.
We're diving in. It's like, man, really, I'm getting on a phone call or whatever it may be, meeting out, and it's like, we are just chatting. Like, I'm not, this isn't a university degree of like what my conversations with people look like. I mean, it might just be a FaceTime with a client might look like the same FaceTime with you. It's like, we are having a good time. It's still business, but yeah, I don't want people to be like listening thinking, oh man, Dan's really overcomplicating the matter. I'm not trying to complicate this.
Yeah. Cool. I love it. So talk to me about what you're actually selling people, because I think one of the coolest things about getting people on the pod is exposing everyone who's listening to what or watching. Shout out people who watch Spotify and YouTube. We're going hard to more into the video stuff this year. It's been a video podcast for like 4 years, but we're going harder on the video stuff. So, but one of the coolest parts about this podcast and having guests on is that you can expose to all the other creatives that are listening what you're actually selling in your business. And so any context on that. So when you say Jackett Media, you're doing 6 figures a year, what are you actually selling? You're saying social monthly content packages. You talked a little bit about earlier on the show, you're helping people fill their social content calendars, but what does an offer like that actually look like? How many videos, how many photos, what formats, like just a quick little, very quick.
The bulk of my clients, pretty much all of them, whether I'm probably providing stuff that they can post, but the bulk of the stuff that I provide, I am posting that myself.
So you're managing it, yeah.
And so my rhythm, 2 photos, 1 reel a week. I'm putting a lot of work into that stuff. I want to make sure those reels are sick. I'm not really following like, whether it's like Kermit sipping tea or the funny guy that's on the cell phone right now that's going crazy. Like there's all these little things.
It's not trend-based.
It's not necessarily trend-based. I love that stuff. I think it's hilarious and think I should implement humor a little more. But I'm heavily editing some videos because the field that they're in, people love seeing that. And
what fields are you primarily working in? Because I think this is also important, because when you said you started, you were like, I'm going to work with the big brands, and you were probably thinking like the snowboard brands, the apparel brands, the outdoors brands. I know we grew up in similar industries, and so I know that's what you were probably envisioning. Where are you actually seeing a lot of momentum with clients now? What industries are they in?
It's funny because it's so directly related to what I did as a kid. So I grew up in construction, like I said, and the fields that I work in and love working in is construction related. It's
so helping construction companies, building companies, energy companies, you're helping them with content to push their own business goals forward.
Which is funny because it's like I'm so fortunate in what I get to do. And I'll be honest, sitting here, it's like the videos I put out, there isn't like this direct ROI related to what I've put out. And I'm fortunate that my line of work is that. But it is to help grow their name, build that brand strength and awareness, create loyalty with their employees. Because with that, it builds the strength of the company as well. You can foster people up and turn them into managers and create teams. And so
probably helps with recruiting too. When a company's got really cool content, you see the employees in their work, you see them, the kind of company culture. It probably helps with recruiting
big time
if it's a really big business as well.
It's all that, which is funny. And so it's construction related, which is what I did when I was younger. I'm still doing it. I still love it. And I more than anything, I love the people that I get to work in within that. Whether I'm out in the field or dealing with them on the phone, it's like, I love it. I love them. It works for me. I found my niche. And yeah.
This is totally going in a different direction. What did it feel like to have your first 10K month? As a business.
As business.
Do you remember it? Do you remember when that was?
It's so funny because I feel like you send out these invoices and they just kind of come in. Like where am I going to take this?
Yeah, like you sent a few out and you don't realize that, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, that was actually like
I think
kind of a milestone that month.
I think the mental shift that happened for me is like, I'm not a big gear guy, and but it allowed me to go like, okay, I can go film this, and if I break something, I'm gonna replace it. I'm gonna go film this. I'm gonna buy, you know what? I'm gonna buy the good mic. I'm not gonna buy the cheap mic. Like it just gave me that freedom to be like, oh sweet. And we're not just like blowing the budget on toys here, but it allowed you to be like, man, now I can like kind of bring the heat a little more for the client.
Yeah, reinvest back in the biz. Yeah.
And in turn, it all looks a little better. And so I think there was that mindset shift. And I want to touch on that and that, like, because it is a business now, you're buying stuff on business dollars. And I love to save. And I think it's important to do so because you are a business. You got to make money. You got to save money so that you can stay afloat. But it's like, you also got to be putting out money, which is a hard step for me to be like, okay, I'm spending big money on stuff now, but it's important because that is also helping you. Creativ Rise is one of those tools. Like we got to preach that too, because that's what's working on this tool, tool your mind and the process and the confidence and all that stuff.
All that tactical stuff.
So I know that's kind of a wishy-washy answer, but I think that's what happens. Like you start making money and it's like, oh, it gives you a little bit of gusto to just charge hard.
Yeah. When did you know that this was going to be something that was actually going to be stable and it was going to be predictable? Like when did it click that you were like, this is actually going to be my career?
There's two moments, if we're being honest. Went into it all out and kind of at a necessity. I know we've mentioned that. I know some people can kind of trickle into it. They can work their job, get some clients, build up the clients, and at that point you make the jump. For me, it was just a direct hit. It's like, okay, we're doing this. We have to make it work. And the two moments where I knew it was going to work is 2 phone calls, and incredible phone calls because like I know it's like, okay, this is game on. Phone call number 1, it's like, sweet, yes, like dream come true.
What are these phone calls? You're saying like with a client?
With a client.
Okay, so like your first deal's going through.
Well, first one that just made me know, it's like, oh, this is gonna work.
Yeah.
Because like,
and what do you mean this is gonna work? What about it were you like, this is gonna work? Was it was a big deal? Was it
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, we really like your work. We want to work with you on an ongoing basis. Like, what was that? Give us a little bit of the story.
Yeah. In all honesty, so I was doing so many things at the beginning that are like within the hundreds of dollars.
Hmm.
They weren't within the thousands of dollars. And you're doing so many of those, trying to keep up and keep everything going.
The $300 job.
You're putting
$400
just as
jobs,
much
yeah.
work in all of them.
Yeah.
And so I get this phone call. It's like, okay, there's going to be consistency and basically like sky's the limit. Like, how hard do you want to go? Let's go.
We've got budget for it.
And so it's like, whoa, sweet. And so that, I didn't even see that coming. That was a phone call of like, you're kind of joking, to we're buying plane tickets. And it's like, okay, sweet. So that really gave me some confidence. And then a couple months later, that one led to another, which is like, this is what we're doing now. To me now saying, I hope I'm doing this for 20 years.
Yeah. I love that. Talk to me, Dan, talk to me about relationships with clients that have led to more work, because a huge part of your business being where it's at right now is that you have just built awesome relationships with clients. You've done great work for them and you get referrals, right? So a lot of the history of my business is any great, good business should be pretty heavily referral based, because referrals mean that you're providing a good solution, right? So for everyone who's listening to the show, if you aren't going after a bunch of referrals, or if you're not currently in a place where a lot of your work is coming from referrals, might be a good time to ask yourself at the beginning of this year, like, what could I do to potentially shift my service or the solution I'm providing to really make sure I am like really checking that box for a client? Because when you can really check off a box for a client and they feel like they got exactly what they asked for, if not more, you're going to get a ton of referrals, which is so helpful, because you having a sales background, sales takes a lot of time. It's a long road with clients, right? Where you're building that trust, you're starting to talk to them about what solutions might look like, where referrals can shorten that road really quickly. So what does it look like as a creative to really go into a client and really crush a job? And then how do you pursue a relationship that would maybe lead to referrals?
I feel like the referral thing, as you meant, it kind of eliminates a bit of that sales process, eliminates a bit of like marketing yourself. Don't look to me for what like a standout marketing plan is. Personally, I put all my effort into my client stuff.
Yeah.
Because
you did put all your effort into marketing yourself in the beginning, though.
Big time.
Yeah.
And
which is the natural curve, right? I tell people this all the time. They're like, dude, I'm just dying. Like, the content and the pitches and having to market myself, it's killing me. And I'm like, dude, you will wake up, or girl, you will wake up one day, whoever you are. I tell people this all the time, and you will go, I haven't pitched in 4 months, or I haven't gone out to shoot 30 videos of myself for my marketing concept for the next 2 months. I haven't done that in months. Why? Because it paid off, and all of a sudden you're working on fulfilling all the stuff and growing your own business. So there will be a day, if you're listening to this and you are in that grind right now, there will be a day, if you stick with it, where you'll be sitting here like Dan is, and you're going, I don't actually market myself as heavy as I used to in the beginning, because I'm enjoying the fruits of that initial marketing base that I created and all the referrals and everything off the back of that, right? Which is what you've experienced.
And I haven't given a good answer for advice to people, because I owe so much to those around me. It's the relationships that I've built that have gotten me to where I am. And I got to give huge credit to those people in the phone calls and like I mentioned, my dad and friends, you guys, for like making it happen.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have.
So talk to me about that, people-wise. How important is it to surround yourself with people to do this, to make it work? What's your experience with that?
There's gonna be a long pause here, Mig. I gotta think about this. This deserves a good answer.
For everybody listening, Mig won't cut this out. We'll leave this in. Mig edits these podcasts, and Mig's the man. So shout out to you, Mig.
Okay, building relationships. Man, I don't know.
I'll ask it this way: how important is it to surround yourself with people that see kind of your next season, or see you down the road? Because I know in the beginning, like, that was a big conversation that we had, right? Like,
I know it's crucial. I don't know the right answer to give, because it's, in one sense, it's everything. But I'm not making relationships to get something out of it. I'm not like becoming Joey's friend because, oh, Joey's gonna give me all this business advice for in the film world. Like, that was never the agenda. It was never the agenda to become friends with these construction guys that I filmed with. It was like, oh, sweet, like a new friend, really. And I know I've said that twice now, but I don't know. It's the age old. You surround yourself with. You become the 5 people you're surrounded with, and so I guess making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that you want to become, both as a person and in business. Probably not what you're looking for.
No, that's it. I mean, that's it, right? It's like in the beginning stages, and this is what I hope people are getting from this podcast. If you're listening, I hope you are actually getting some of this from Dan in his story right now. But in the beginning stages, when you're trying to make it happen, you actually have to borrow belief from other people, right? Like when you first came down to that inner circle retreat, I'll let you speak to this if it's different than what I'm saying. We're rolling. When you first came down to the inner circle retreat, you were like a half a month in or a month in, and you kind of came down and you were like, I just want to get exposed to what everybody here is doing, because everyone here is making 6 figures or multiple 6 figures. They've been doing it for years, you know, and I'm assuming you getting in proximity with people, not in a malicious way. Like you said, you were getting in proximity to become friends and support. But in turn, I think you got to borrow a ton of belief, which I think is super important in the beginning stages. So, and I say beginning, like you could be in your beginning if you've been doing this for 5 years, meaning you might be in the beginning of the new season in terms of where you want to go. Like let's say you're making 80 grand right now and you want to be making 200 grand by the end of 2026 or something, right? Or maybe you're making 20 and you want to quit your job and go full time and make 80 this year. Like beginning doesn't have to mean you started today. I just mean like the beginning of the next chapter, right? I think it's really important to borrow that belief. What do you think?
Because it propels you. And I think our world is always teaching us, like, you know, we got to have more cars, more money, bigger head. Like we're so heavily influenced by those around us, maybe sometimes in a not good way. But don't forget, you can be heavily influenced in a good way. Like being surrounded with people like Joey and Christy, like that's in a good way. It's giving you that hunger that you might not have done on your own, and not in a selfish way, in a good way. I do truly think that it's good for people to pursue the next thing for the right reasons.
Totally.
You know. And
and we're all about that because we're not like cars and the flashy stuff, right? Creative Rise is about choice. I don't care if you want to buy a car. I don't care if you want to save every penny possible and live in the tiniest apartment you've ever found and save so much money. I just want people to have choice. It's the whole point of the podcast, is because when you grow a business, you get choice, right? More choice with your time, more choice with your location freedom, your income cap. Like if you're stuck working a job that you feel like you're stuck in and it's not covering what you need to cover anymore, being self-employed gives you more choice, right? You can work harder, work longer, work smarter, make more money. And so that's the whole goal, which I think is cool. So, well, dude, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts?
We've got a signature question I'll ask you at the end, but do you have anything else you would say just to encourage anybody? Maybe speak to Dan back in February and March of 2023, who you're like, I have this dream. I really want to make this work. Like, any closing thoughts to say to that person?
I truly believe that we were created with certain passions and interests. And I think we were created to pursue those things. And I think I squandered that for a really long time, thinking like, I don't want to turn this passion into a career because I don't want to fall out of love with it. But it's like, you know what? We're all so unique. We've all been given different gifts and abilities. Like, let's lean into those and lean into those around us to go all out.
It's a great answer. That's kind of actually the answer to the last question, which is like, why is it worth it to go after it? Your answer is because you think we're made to do it.
I do believe we're made to do it. And I wish I had an awesome verse to back that up. I don't have one in mind, but I also think, don't forget too, in the same way that we've been talking a lot about being influenced, like you're going to get to influence someone else too. The more you start to learn and the bigger your sphere of influence may become, time for you to pass that on too. Because, man, maybe there's that other young person wanting to pursue a similar career or just business. Man, the stuff you're learning, film and doing photo work, there's crossover. I actually think there's a lot of people who sign up for Creative Rise who aren't in this industry who would still 100% benefit. And so you guys to us, but also to those around us. You got some influence. And
yeah. I think we'll wrap up with this. I love what you just said. I love you quickly mentioned the fear of what did stop you. Because I remember for years being like, Dan, you got to start your own video company, bro. You got to start your own business. And you were doing a bunch of stuff, you know, but you loved, every time I'd see you, you're like, you got your cameras, you're filming stuff. Like, you got to do this for a living, you know? I was doing it at the time, still doing it. And I was like, you got to do it. But you just kind of mentioned that fear where you're like, I don't want to lose the joy and love that I have for it by turning my passion into a business. The thing that I think is so cool, based on the next answer you just gave, was one of the things that I think is behind that fear is it's actually a really selfish thing where we're like, I only want to create for myself. And we think that if we have to start creating for others, we're going to lose the joy of it. But one of the coolest things about building a business is you start to see how the skills you've learned in creating for yourself allow you to create things for other people. And that brings tremendous value to their lives or businesses. And that's the coolest thing about being self-employed, is seeing how you can actually go out and produce value for somebody else's life, whether it's very, very shallow, like you're helping a business make more money, and because of that, they're able to buy their kids better Christmas presents that year. Like, that's so shallow, but like even something as simple as that, it's like you start to see the joys in that, and it's like, that's cool.
And as your passion becomes your career, it is still hard work, and there are days when it is just plain hard work.
Yeah.
But man, there's something about the fact that you're getting to do that thing, as hard as it may be, it still feels right. It just feels like you're made to do it. And I don't know, I'm not saying that there's that other line too. It's like, you won't work a day in your life. You're just blah, blah.
Yeah.
No,
that's not
but
true.
It's like, but it just feels right. No matter how hard it is, it's the right wavelength. It's the right, you're on track.
Yeah. Love it, bro. Well, hey, I'm proud of you. Way to go. Proud of you and Jackett Media and everything you've built. I feel like I was telling you for a long time to do it, and I'm glad you made the jump, and you're killing it, man. So thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing everything.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
If Joey's telling you to do
Long time
something,
coming.
it's probably a good idea. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. We'll catch you next time, guys. All right, well, that was an awesome episode with Dan. His story is amazing. Hope you guys really got a ton of value from that. And hopefully you want to go hang out and check him out on Instagram. So go hit him up, DD Jackett on Instagram. All the links are in the description if you want to find anything on Dan. Because he's a great guy. This episode's just so fun. He's such a fun and loving and
Great guy.
fun guy to talk
Really
to.
great guy.
So, and full of value. That episode was just like packed with great stuff. So, Dan, we're proud of you for growing your business, and thanks for sharing, man. That was awesome.
Yes, and just a reminder, grab that waitlist spot for the next round of the Creative Rise Mastermind, round 13, which how many people have gone to the Mastermind?
340.
Forget.
Yeah.
340 people. So if you are a service-based creative looking to grow your business in 2025 and want to be in a group that is focusing on that goal solely for 6 weeks, our next one is starting March 16th, and applications open March 2nd, but you get early access if you join the wait list, along with a bunch of other bonuses, which is really awesome. But you were just talking to someone the other day that had a question.
Yeah, I know. So we're getting a lot of DMs about questions about the Mastermind, obviously with the next one upcoming, round 13 coming up. One of the questions that we get asked all the time is like, when's the next one? I don't know if I'm going to have the money for this one, or I don't know if I want to spend the money right now. And if you're wondering how much it is, there's two different options. You can either pay in full, and it's $2,797. Or if you want to do a payment plans start at about $3,000 with the extra processing fees and stuff. And we can break that up over a couple months for you. So we strategically priced this Mastermind to be less than what a typical like full camera body setup would be, yet it's going to teach you actually how to make money. Where a camera is amazing. We all get excited when we get a new camera, but the reality is it doesn't actually make you more money unless you've already sold a job. So you come to the Mastermind, learn how to actually grow your business, and then you can buy whatever camera you want. But that's the price. And the question really comes off of, how do I know if I should do this one or should I wait for the next one? And waiting for the next one's not a bad thing. But the only thing that it does is it forces you to miss out on months and months and months and months and months of potential really big upside growth. So if the next one we do is in the fall, and you don't do this one in March, if you're really wanting to do it, it means you're missing out on at least 6 months of growth where you could have been doubling, tripling, quadrupling, 10xing, who knows what your monthly income is, which means that if you do that times the amount of months you have to wait, it could be quite a bit of revenue loss for your business, which is important. So I'm more optimistic, and we typically love when people go, I really want in. How do I figure out how to make this one work? And if you want to have a conversation with us about that, we'd love to chat with you about that. But that's the price. That's often the answer that we give when people ask, should I wait for the next one? It's you can, but you got to count the,
Mm,
the opportunity cost of not doing it.
yeah.
And if that weighs and you're like, sweet, I still want to wait, cool. If you're like, no, I don't want to miss out on that, then this one might be the one for you. Round 13 might be the one for you. So
Yeah.
couple more questions we often get asked.
Yeah, we get asked a lot like, well, who is this for? Like, who is this for? And so this is for service-based creatives. So whether you're a photographer, a filmmaker, if you're a social media manager, if you shoot weddings, if you shoot brands, do any of that kind of stuff, this is for you. We've also had website designers. Basically, if you're a service-based creative, that is what this is for. So if you're like selling maybe like digital products or doing something like that, it's not really for you, but this is for service-based creatives, people that want to turn oftentimes their hobby into a living. Or if you're already making this your living, you're already doing over 6 figures, this is absolutely also for you. We've had a ton of people come in at the 80K mark, the 100K mark. We've had people come in at the 200K mark, and they're like, hey, I want to come in, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to stabilize maybe what I'm doing, I want to make things more sustainable, or I'm trying to double my business now, get into the multiple 6 figures like Owen. It's an awesome spot for people like that as well. So again,
Seen all income ranges.
yeah, all income ranges, which is
great.
honestly really cool. It's actually really, really cool to sit in a group of 30 to 35 creative businesses where there's people that are just starting their creative business. There's people that are like in the 50K range, and then there's people that are already over 6 figures. Everybody learns from each other. Like the people that are just starting also know a ton of stuff that helps the 6-figure business owner and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's like a total even playing field, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
And that's one of the things that we really focus on with the culture, right? Is like, how do we create a community where everyone is giving? And so everyone then gets to take a bunch, and it's not protective and walled up, and I don't share anything. It's
Yeah.
very like tear all that stuff down, totally open, no closed doors on what's working, what's not, and all that stuff, which is really fun. So
Really, really
we
fun.
cannot wait. March 2nd, applications go live. And so we sell it every time. And the applications, last year we had what, like a 96, last round, which was last year, like 96 or 106
We had
applications
like
for
they had
the,
like 112, I think.
yeah, 112 applications for the 35 spots, 30 to 35 spots. So it's important that if you do really want this or want to consider this, get on the wait list. The wait list is going to give you all the information. You're also going to get some deals. You're also going to get that free course. These, how we
Sales call
the
formula.
sales call formula. We always mess that up. The sales call formula course, it's brand new. It gives you the sales call cheat sheet too. You're gonna get that just for joining the waitlist, which is our gift to you. But anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode with Dan. Get excited for next week's episode. And again, go subscribe on a platform you can watch on video, because that is the future of podcasts. And we're glad you are here for it. So we'll catch you guys next week.